Good morning and welcome to Coffee Conversations. We are glad to have you with us today. Today, for our coffee conversations, we're going to talk about graduation 2020. Been a lot of changes, some interesting information to know. So we are going to try to make sure that you are well informed. Today, we have with us as our special guests, Dr. Mindy Vickers and Dr. Jane Fields. Thank you both for joining us. Let's go ahead and get this party started with our co-hosts, Jonathan and Renata. Jonathan and Renata, can you introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi, my name is Jonathan Franz. I'm the Social Studies Curriculum Specialist for Cumberland County Schools.
Hello, I'm Renata Moy, Chief Communications Officer with the Cumberland County Schools.
And again, I'm Joaquina George. I'm the Family Engagement Facilitator with Cumberland County Schools. So, thank you again both for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started on the topic that all graduation 2020 students or families are interested in. So we know that there was a graduation 2020 plan that was kind of rolled out a few weeks ago. And since that time, there's been some changes from July schedule to now doing it in a couple weeks. So can you tell us what brought about that change?
Sure. Originally, we had hoped that conditions would have allowed for the more traditional ceremony at the Crown Coliseum in July. However, learning the projected limitations at the Crown and requirements that came forth with the governor's Phase 2 executive order, we realized that the traditional graduation that the Cumberland County School students were so accustomed to and truly deserve was not going to be an option. So district leadership then began seeking input. Student groups and made suggestions about graduations being held in their own schools if they could not be hosted at the Crown. Many also shared the sentiment that they left their schools so abruptly on March 13th that it would be both nice and sentimental to return to their schools one last time for their graduation ceremony. We also had many asked to move the graduation ceremonies to earlier dates because we have a large number of students who are leaving early for both the military and for college. So a decision was made to move the ceremonies from the Crown Coliseum at the projected dates in July to individual school sites from June 12th through the 19th.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So now that it is being held in June, can you kind of walk us through what it's going to look like? What can parents expect? How are they going to, get the information about their child? Like, how is that all going to work?
So schools will be giving out the specifics because each graduate will have a date and time that they should report to their school. We'll be doing what's called a shift-style graduation, which is very different, but it allows us to let our students walk across the stage, which, as Jane mentioned, was one of the things that they said was really important to them. In this process, the graduate and their 4 guests, so that's kind of a very different piece, is only a maximum of 4 guests, will enter the school building or the Educational Resource Center, depending on the school. They will be directed by staff members how to get to the auditorium. Everybody will be socially distanced while they are inside the building. They will then go to either the auditorium or the gym. We have a couple of schools using their gyms. The graduate will walk to the stage. The parents will go in front of the stage. Parents will get the opportunity to record, take pictures, cheer, and yell, which is a great thing, not
Unusual,
normally
yeah.
allowed.
'Cause we don't do that.
We don't do that. So
Yeah.
that's one bonus of this crazy situation. They'll get probably between 5 and 10 seconds to take pictures. And then the graduate will move off the stage. The family will move out of the auditorium. The graduate will pick up their diploma and keepsake programs. We are still having schools print programs and tickets so that kids have that as memorabilia, if you will. They'll pick that up someplace outside of their auditorium, and then they'll move back to the parking lot, back to their cars, and would need to leave the parking lot because we'll have another group of kids coming in shortly thereafter. So it is really different, but it is what we can do and still allow our kids to walk across the stage.
And it sounds very synchronized, like it has to be, things have to kind of fall on time.
They do, and we will need, lots of cooperation from our families. We, each school has a very well mapped out plan of movement through the building and the timing of that movement. We're going to be doing groups of 20 kids in a 30-minute block. So as you can imagine, for us to get 20 kids through in a 30-minute block, it is going to require, like you said, Renata, a lot of cooperation. And I think what some people don't maybe understand yet is doing it this way. Our largest graduating class, it is going to take that school 12 hours to complete their graduation event process. So they're going to be doing this over 2 days and over 3 different blocks of time. So, while you think about, hey, I only get 30 minutes or I only get a minute on the stage, think about when there are 460 graduates, if everybody gets a minute on the stage plus time to get in and out, it's a long time. Most of our comprehensive high schools are going to spend somewhere between 9 and 12 hours completing their graduation event.
Wow.
So they really are going, I feel like, above and beyond for their students and for their graduates to be able to walk across the stage.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what, with and Jane mentioned this earlier, a group of students. So there was an advisory group, I understand, a graduation advisory group. Kind of want to know, who was on that group, how the decision was made to move in this direction, and how was this group vital in that intricate planning that you all are doing to get these students across the stage?
That's a good question, Renata. And yes, there were groups of students that the district leadership team met with on different occasions. Some of the members consisted of students from a group that Dr. Connolly meets with on a monthly basis throughout the school year as he seeks input from students on a regular basis. And so that group is called the Superintendent Student Voices. Okay. And so senior members of that group participated and gave feedback, as well as senior class presidents and senior student body presidents from each of our high schools in Cumberland County. They met with the leadership team to provide their input. High school principals were also instrumental in the planning process. And we also received feedback through the Cumberland County Schools website and through community communication with individual principals. So that's how we came to receive input from different and various stakeholder groups.
Yeah. And from what I understand, there was a resounding, and you may have mentioned that, a resounding, we really just want to walk across the stage.
Yes, it was very emotional to sit in and listen to the meeting. And I mentioned earlier, when you think about the last time you walk out of your school building, you don't want it to be something like Friday, March 13th was for these students, that they never returned back as students. And so we heard that message over and over again. We left on, so abruptly. We'd love the opportunity to return back to our schools. If we can't have the traditional Crown Coliseum graduation that we have anticipated for years, then let us go back to our schools so that we can walk across the stage in the presence of family members and let the last time we walk out of our school building be on a special, wonderful occasion and not the way we left in March.
All right. Okay.
So it's obvious that you all put in a lot of work in communicating with students and families to understand how to best make graduation 2020 work for these students. And it's awesome that they will have opportunity to go back to their schools. As you mentioned, some of them, March 13th was the last time in the building. So it's exciting. Even though they won't have the traditional Crown Coliseum, they will have opportunity to go back to their school. Mindy, you mentioned a little bit about how many students will be there and how many guests, but what do you envision this actually looking like the graduation ceremony itself, if for lack of better terms for how this will work, what will this actually look like?
Well, I would say it's probably better to call it an event more than a ceremony. We will record all of the principal and student speeches ahead of time. So in a traditional setting where, all the kids are together sitting as a class, there are thousands of guests in the Crown Coliseum. You hear from start to finish, pomp and circumstance all the way to turn your tassel. That is not what it's going to be when the student goes to the building. Mm-hmm. So we'll record everything that needs to be recorded ahead of time. We are having professional pictures taken of every student as they cross the stage. We will put together in sort of a video compilation, if you will, mm-hmm. the pre-speeches, then all the kids' pictures, and then the turn the tassel speech. And that will be given to all of our families. And I don't know if given is the right word. It'll be provided or it'll be available electronically so that you can see sort of a final graduation ceremony product. But when you go to the building, it is not going to look or feel like graduation. Unfortunately, the governor's phase 2 executive order has just drastically limited what we can do. When you can't have more than, a few people in a room gathered together, you just can't put everybody together. So we've opted that and I've said this to Jane, I don't know if I'm allowed to reference a restaurant, but we kind of want this to be like the Chick-fil-A line. It is going to be a very smooth, flowing process. Yeah. You're going to walk in the door, and about every minute, you will be moving to the next marked space until you get to the auditorium. And then you'll move through the auditorium and you'll move out of the building. So, if you're the first person in the group, you'll probably be in the building for less than 5 minutes. If you're the last person in that particular group, you might be in the building as long as 30 minutes, but we hope it's actually a little shorter than that, to be honest. There will be no sitting, no touching anything, because we're trying to keep everybody safe. So, if you're a person who has difficulty standing, this, you would need to come with, for example, your own wheelchair, because there's, like I said, it's not like you get to go in the auditorium and sit down for 30 minutes. You are standing the entire time you're in our buildings. So it's just, you really can't compare it. It's not at all the same, but the two pieces that are similar, kids get to walk the stage in their caps and gowns. What's, I think, a little better in this case is parents get to cheer and they get to be right in front of the stage to take pictures and videos, which you can't do at a traditional graduation. So it's, it's a very small bonus, but it's, something that, like I said, and Jane has said, these kids deserve so much more, but we feel like we've put together that's at something that is as much as we can give them, given our restrictions from the current executive order.
Yeah, you're giving them as much pomp and circumstance as possible.
Yes,
we're under the circumstances.
Right, and we're also creating a video that we will share with parents and students that will be sort of short clips of each stage of the process so that they can ahead of time look at this video and sort of get a feel for what to expect. We don't want anybody to be surprised. We don't want anybody to be really disappointed when they get there thinking, oh, we get to go in the auditorium and sit down. So we are creating a video that we should have available for parents either later today, today's Monday, I think, or tomorrow, Tuesday, June 2nd, we're hoping.
Yeah, the first week of June.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, it sounds like the district is really, really doing all that is possible to make this graduation as much of a graduation as it can be and to make it a success. But, at the same time, there's going to be students who this was not the time they planned. They're just whatever, life is going to intervene and they're not going to be able to be there. What about them? How do they get their diplomas? Like, how does that happen for them?
Graduates, Jonathan, that are not going to be able to attend the ceremony at their school can contact their individual schools to make arrangements to pick up their diploma. This is the same as it would be on a normal year. We also have students that sometimes cannot attend graduation at the Crown. And so schools are very accommodating and ensuring that there are times for graduates to come and pick up their diplomas.
Excellent. Thank you.
Now, you know what? Just have some questions, or one question here. Is there, I guess, just any further information that families just really need to know in terms of preparing and being, present for the ceremony? Or, excuse me, the event.
Really just that, we are very proud of the class of 2020 and trust and believe we recognize the emotional stress because we've felt it too. This has been really hard for Jane and me because we both are former high school principals. We know what graduation sort of smells and feels and, makes you get the goosies and tingle all over because it's just an amazing event. And we know that this is what kids have dreamed about and earned. Regrettably, we're in a position where we have to make decisions based on that executive order. One of the things that we've kind of heard as feedback is, hey, why aren't we using football fields? Well, unfortunately, the outside gathering limit is 25 people. So if we did our graduate and 4 guests plus the staff we need, you've got to have people there to actually hand them their diploma cover and so forth. We'd get 3 graduates, their families, and then staff on the football field, and that would be it. So we did want to make sure that we kind of explain to people why we're not using football fields, because it would go even longer than the 12 hours, for example, that one of our high schools is going to already have to use for their event. We just, we want people to know that, be prepared to move reasonably, kind of quickly through this process, but, kind of savor that moment while your child is on the stage. They actually get a little more time on stage this way than what they get at the Crown Coliseum, because normally our graduates are walking across the stage 3, 4, 5 at a time. So this way gives them a little more time. So be prepared with your phone or your camera, get all the pictures you want to get, scream, yell, cheer, whatever you want to do, but then also, be prepared to please work with us so that we can get the next graduate in so they can, have that, experience that's a little shorter than we would like, but we feel like gives them as much of what the students, our graduates, wanted as we could give them. And we'll be live streaming from each event. It will be on schools' social media sites, and they'll put out that information. So if you have more than 4 guests that want to see it, that will be possible. You'll be able to see the student, the graduate, as they cross the stage. So that does hopefully open the door for a little bit of, the extra family members that won't be able to come in the auditoriums or gyms.
Right.
Well, just listening, I think you all have done just an excellent job in thinking this through and, just going with an advisory group to guide this whole event and this experience. And I mean, I don't know, but I really feel like, we have a wonderful group of families within the Cumberland County schools, very gracious. And I think that most of them will be pleased that they just get this opportunity, because when you look at other districts across the state as well as far reaching, there won't be a graduation ceremony, and it might be a drive-through type of situation, but you all have gone above and beyond. So I think most people will be pleased just that, time is being taken by our district to just say, hey, we want to acknowledge our students, give them what they want, which is a walk across the stage. We'll do whatever we have to do that. And I think that's commendable. So, hey, kudos for Cumberland County Schools.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Mindy and Jane. Thank you for joining us today and sharing with us that valuable information about graduation 2020. A lot of things are beyond everyone's control at this point, but I'm sure that you all have worked hard along with the advisory group on trying to do what's best for students and making those revisions so that the graduation event for 2020 will happen. So thank you both for joining us, and thank you so much for that information. Thank you, families, for joining us for Coffee Conversations. Coffee Conversations is an initiative under our Cumberland Family Academy, a way for us to keep our families engaged in form of information that is relevant and that will help you during this time to be able to navigate what's happening in Cumberland County schools. So continue to join us, join me and our co-hosts, Jonathan and Renata. And the next time we come to you with the next coffee conversation, please make sure you're with us, join us, bring your coffee, and we'll bring the conversation.
Coffee.
Thank you so much for joining us, and you all have a great day.